Hey there, I'm at the Black Gate in Newcastle. The Black Gate sounds a little bit like a Lord of the Rings thing, but it's just what they call the Barbican, a sort of fortified gate for the old castle here in Newcastle. You might be able to see the different eras of stonework. I'm no real expert, but I would say that some of it is from the medieval times, the 13th century, the 12th century, and then the later times, let's say the 17th or 18th century. Yeah. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video isn't to give you a history on the Black Gate or the Keep. It's actually just because the background looks quite cool. I wanted to make a video on horror, and I think the question I want to ask is horror supposed to be scary? Does horror live or die by that one scene which grabs you by the throat and scares the willies out of you? Have a think about that one. Because when was the last time that you heard of a horror book that topped the New York Times bestseller? An author not named Stephen King. You hear about The Girl on the Train, which is now a movie. You hear about Gone Girl, which also was made into a film. But you don't hear about horror much anymore. Now, it wasn't always that way. If you think about The Innocents, The Haunting, Frankenstein, there was more to horror than just scaring the crap out of you. And the reason it all changed was because of one of the best horror films and books of all time, ironically. That film being The Exorcist, and that book being The Exorcist. In 1973, when The Exorcist came out in cinema, it was very much one of the most unprecedented successes in horror history. And of course, it has legends of people running out of the theatre, being physically ill. In fact, you might have some personal anecdotes from older friends and family members who were personally affected by watching that film. And horror hasn't been the same since. Filmmakers have wanted to recreate that cinema experience ever since 1973. So how many years is that now? 30, 40 years? Well, look at the way that Paranormal Activity markets itself, or that good horror film Wreck. They didn't show trailers, they showed hidden cams of people in the audience being scared out of their seats. That wasn't always the case with horror film marketing, which concentrated on the story and the characters and the emotions. Everybody wants to do The Exorcist these days. Everybody wants that one scene, like The Exorcist, or Exorcist has multiple scenes, doesn't it? Everybody wants that scene that just completely, messes you up, so to speak. Now, the thing is that horror is actually good at scaring you these days. The new Blair Witch movie that's come out, it's been criticized for its story and its characters and the fact that it repeats what the Blair Witch did how many years ago. But it wasn't criticized for its scary final 20 minutes. What else? Paranormal Activity has a couple of good scares. It's got nothing to do with being scary. That's not what we complain about. Now, if the writers and the directors and even video game developers concentrated on the story, the themes, the emotions in the horror genre, the whole genre would be lifted up, and it would just sit amongst the rest of the genres like drama, thriller, even comedy, which also has issues with resorting to our basal desires, but that's another thing altogether. So I'm calling all the writers and directors and even video game developers to just calm the farm on scaring people and let the scares come organically through the story. If you write a story that's good enough, that's uneasy enough, they will feel scared naturally. That's all there is to it, really.